The Kentucky Small Business Development Center is a statewide, nationally accredited program that provides no-cost, confidential business coaching and training services. Whether you're just getting started or are ready to expand, we have the tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. We're part of a national network, America's SBDC, with over 1,000 centers across the nation. To learn more about how the Kentucky SBDC can serve you, please visit KentuckySBDC.com or email us at info@KentuckySBDC.com. You can also reach us by calling 888-414-7232. Thank you for joining today's webinar. The chat feature is available for you to ask questions and interact with today's speaker. Please take a moment to introduce yourself and where you are watching from today.
Welcome, everyone, to another Wednesday webinar. I'm Dave Etkin. Glad to have you here today. Thanks for joining. I'm the director here of the Louisville SBDC Center, one of 17 centers across the state of Kentucky. So as you just heard, if you would just say hello, make sure your chat's working so you can ask questions throughout the presentation. And we'll kind of get to them towards the end. So just put your name in the chat and tell us where you're joining from. So there's Shannon. Hey, Shannon from here in Louisville, and John from Owensboro. Good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. So today we have a great guest. Today it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Jason Ballard. Jason is one of the top business and executive coaches in the country. He works with a ton of organizations around the world, helping them grow and achieve their next level of success a lot faster than they could on their own. He's been in business for about 30 years, a career involving family construction business. He was an officer in the United States Air Force. He advised political leaders and launched multiple startups, turned around a bunch of companies. He's done quite a bit. So, Jason, good to have you here today.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Dave, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and spend the holiday with you in your holiday session, and looking forward to some great engagement here and interaction and how we can help your folks.
You know, these last 2 years have been a tough time for anybody in business. And you and I were talking about how to really put your head down and get through adversity. And I thought this was a great topic to bring here right at the end of the year as we look forward to hopefully a better year going forward. But who knows what can happen here in the future?
That's right, Dave. There is no better time to be in business than right now. It may not seem like it. It may not feel like it. But from a macroeconomic standpoint and kind of where our country is and where our country's going, this is a great time to be in business. We've just experienced some things over the past year and a half or 2 years that have thrown a little bit of a wrench, a little bit of a curveball at us, and we're trying to adapt and overcome. And really, I think that's in the grand scheme of things, I think a test for how we may need to think differently going forward to be able to deal with more of these types of things that will definitely happen as we go forward.
Yeah. Well, let's just dive right in.
You bet. So welcome, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. I love the holidays. I love getting together with folks, and I love sharing some things that I hope will be of value to you. And so it's been a tough year and a half to 2 years. We've seen a lot happen with natural disasters, with pandemics, with people coming in and out of business. Some people have opened their business and have grown and just can't keep up and are just, trying to hold on for dear life and having so much success. Others have experienced, some setbacks and some challenges. And so what I wanted to share with you today was some wisdom and some lessons learned about leadership, because at the end of the day, everything really boils down to leadership and how the leaders interact and respond and deal with various levels of adversity. And so my goal today is to hope inspire you and motivate you, get you excited about 2022, get you to think a little bit differently, and give you some tools and resources that'll help you jump from this year into next year on a very high note. So I want to start off with a mindset, with a quote that I think is very pertinent in this day and time. You know, in the middle of difficulty, in the middle of adversity, in the middle of strife and feeling bad and things not going your way, always lies opportunity. The question is, are you seeing it? Do you have the ability to see it? Because sometimes the opportunities are there, sometimes they come and go, and sometimes we miss them. And so I want to hopefully open up your minds and your hearts to maybe a different way of thinking and a different way of seizing the things that may be in front of you, no matter where you are on the spectrum of life and your business or career. There's always opportunity. You just have to find it. And so where have we been? Pre-pandemic, the economy was booming. Everything was great. There was hope. There was high confidence. Everybody was making money. Everybody was succeeding. Everybody was happy. Everybody was achieving the things they wanted to achieve. There was a really strong wave of momentum in our country that everybody was enjoying. It's like, you know, when the tide rises, it floats all boats, and everybody, for the most part, was succeeding and doing very, very well. And we had this awesome outlook. The future was bright. We had trade deals renegotiated. We had new businesses being opened. We've had more jobs coming back to America. We had so much momentum. And then an unexpected thing happened that nobody saw coming. COVID-19. COVID-19 happened. Sorry, the slides are a little slow here. COVID-19 happened. And what happened when that happened? Everything changed. Everybody was caught off guard. Some people created opportunities for them, and they took it and ran with it and excelled and took advantage of these opportunities to help people. And, you know, I remember the defibrillators in Ford and other companies, you know, stopping production and making defibrillators. I saw people in healthcare doing things differently to help people that were sick. But some people went out of business. Some people were kind of like deer in the headlights. They didn't know what to do. They were confused. Some may still be confused. There was so much uncertainty. There was so much, you know, kind of fear and anxiety about, what is this? How long is this going to last? Where is this going to go? When's it going to end? When can we go back to the way it used to be? When can we go back to normal? But what it really exposed is some weaknesses, because when the tide rises and floats all boats, it also goes back out. And sometimes when the tide goes back out, it shows all the things in the bottom of the harbor that we may not have been paying attention to. We may have been taking for granted the things we should have been working on, should have been planning and preparing for, and we just were too busy to deal with it. Those things get exposed. So there's vulnerability and the need for resiliency, the need for some planning and being able to handle rapid change became exposed. And what we found out was that a lot of people aren't prepared for a lot of change, a lot of rapid change. Everything is connected. You know, whether you have a small boutique in Bardstown or you have a booming Fortune 500 company, Everything is connected. Everybody's connected. Our economy is global. Things that happen anywhere in the world can affect us here. Whether it's Brexit in Europe or things going on in Greece or things going on in China or Korea or here, we are all interconnected. We are all interdependent. And we're all vulnerable to things that go on that may or may not be in our control. And so we're all susceptible to disruption. So if you think about the world we live in, what's the future look like? Is this a one and done and now we go back to normal? I would submit to you that that's not the case. I think we've created a new normal. In fact, the experts, the economists, the futurists of the world that I have studied and talked to have predicted and have submitted that the next 15 years, there will be more change that occurs than in the past 150 years combined. Think about that for a minute. If things seem really busy and fast and frustrating and stressful at times in this, kind of fast-paced world we live in today, what's 15 years going to feel like? Are you ready for that? Can you handle that? Can your company, your organization, whatever type of group you're affiliated with, can you handle that? What are you doing to prepare for that? And so at the end of the day, this really boils down to your ability to minimize disruption and prepare the organization to deal with the disruption and overcome it faster than the competition. And so that means you need to be able to understand what's going on in the market and in your company and be able to make higher quality, faster decisions. And those that can do that and minimize that disruption and be able to be agile and pivot and be more nimble in your thinking and your ability to maneuver your products and services through the market conditions that are going to be presented to you, those are the people that are going to be the most successful. And so with that, I've got 4 critical questions for you. And by the way, I didn't say this in the beginning, and so I'll say it now. Don't worry about writing all of these things down, and it's great if you take notes, but don't get caught up in the notes, because we are going to provide you a copy of this presentation. You'll get a copy of these things, among a few other things we'll talk about later. But at this stage of the game, with everything going on, and we evaluate kind of where we are in 2021 and what went well and maybe what didn't go so well and what were the opportunities gained or missed, and then what are our opportunities for 2022, I want to challenge you with 4 critical questions. What are your blind spots? What are they? How do you know where your blind spots are? What those things are? How do you recognize them? How do you sort through all the day-to-day stuff you may think about and deal with and really understand your blind spots in your organization? Number 2, how do you prevent or minimize disruption? Because it's going to keep coming, just like the waves keep coming in on the beach every day, so will disruption. Disruption has many faces. It could be health, it could be weather, it could be employees or people-oriented or customer, it could be anything. Anything that prevents you from maximizing your potential as an organization is disruption. And the more of that happens to you, the less productive you're going to be. You'll be firefighting versus paving a path of the future. Number three, how will you keep up with the rapid change? Change, you can't control it. It's going to happen. The world is just going to spin faster and faster and get more complicated. How do you keep that straight and organized and deal with that and usher from a leadership standpoint? The theme of today is about leadership, because the leaders set the example. The leaders are the ones that are ushering the change and driving results. So how are you going to keep up with this change? And number four, what is your plan to grow and thrive? How do you know whatever that is in your mind is going to work? Are you going to hope it works? Are you going to, try it and see what happens? How do you know it's going to work? Because the last thing you want to do in this high-paced, highly competitive world, fast-moving world we live in is try something and hope it works, because that normally doesn't work. So very important questions that I want you to think about if you're not already. And so it all goes back to leadership. Your organization's success or failure really, truly, at the end of the day, falls on the leadership. And people are counting on you. There are people that your customers are counting on you for your products and services. If you're in the healthcare organization and you're providing pharmaceuticals or healthcare equipment or whatever, people could suffer. People could die if you don't do the things you need to do to deliver your products and services. Your people that work for you need you. They're counting on you to drive the ship in a positive direction, to give them hope, to develop them and grow them, to set your company up for success. They're counting on you. And so I want to challenge you as leaders to step up and be a bigger leader for your people. There is no more critical time in our nation's history, in even our local economy history, for leadership than today. Are you being the best leader possible? And if you're not, no problem. Don't worry about it, because you're going to have some tools in here. The first thing you need to understand is what business success even looks like. Whether you've been successful to a point, whether you haven't been successful, you're only as successful as the leadership team you have running that organization. You can only grow and scale and improve to the capability and potential of the leaders. And so you need a business success blueprint. It's a high-level view of that, but you need that strong foundation. Folks, you'd be surprised at how many people I talk to. I just did an assessment for a technology company here in Louisville, as a matter of fact. And one of the first things I looked at was, where's the company going in 2022? What does success look like? What is your plan? They didn't have a vision. They couldn't clearly articulate their purpose and their why. They didn't have some of these fundamental things at the bottom of this pyramid clearly defined. Therefore, it caused some issues in their company that are driving some major problems, preventing them from growth. They've been very, very successful, but now they're stuck. And until they, gain the clarity they need and get some of the things they need to overcome where they are on that business journey, they're going to struggle. And so I ask you this: do you have a business success blueprint? If not, you'll get a copy of this one, and you can use this as maybe a model for your organization. Maybe tailor it to your organization. And so I want to offer to you 4 steps to success. The first one is very simple. Things about the most important aspect of leadership, as I've traveled all over the world, lived all over the world, led 12 different organizations around the world, small to large size organizations. The most important thing you can do as a leader is simplify. One of the things you can do to do that is gain clarity, because most of the time we're busy in our daily work and firefighting and answering the phones, and we just get busy and we get lost. You know, as the old saying goes, you get lost. You can't see the forest due to the trees. And so you need clarity. If you don't have clarity, how are you going to be successful? And everybody doesn't have clarity on your team, then they're not focused on the same thing, driving the results you want to drive. So the first thing I want to talk to you about clarity is mindset. Where is your organization today? Where are you today as the leader? Because you set the tone. Is your mindset a victor or victim mentality? Interesting enough, about 20% of the organization, probably more so in the past year, see things from a victim mentality. But those 20% of the people cause 80% of the problems in the business. If anybody on your team has a victim mentality, you got some challenges. And so I'd encourage you, as you go into 2022, is to set the stage and the mindset and the attitude and the culture to be that of a victor. We're going to overcome. We're going to adapt. There's hope. And here we go with how we're going to move forward and put everybody at ease. The second aspect of clarity is I call the core six. Being clear on your vision. Where is your company going? What are you aspiring to be? What does success look like at some point down the road? Your mission on what you're doing. And some people in business, that mission has changed over the past 2 years. Opportunities have presented themselves, and you've adjusted your business, and what you do and how you do it has changed. Maybe even your purpose, but having clarity on that purpose and your priorities, your culture, and what something really, really common that I see is roles and responsibilities. 85% of the companies I go into do not have clear roles and responsibilities written down on paper for each and every employee, but yet they wonder why things are kind of chaotic and there's misunderstandings and miscommunication. If you don't have these things, these core six things in motion, clear in everybody's hands, and everybody's on the same page, you're going to have some challenges. That's going to cause you some internal disruption mixed with any external disruption that comes your way, equals you having a really hard time dealing with things going forward and growing and scaling your company. Sometimes the most simplest things can make the biggest differences. So I encourage you to look at these. Another thing about clarity is, where are you in your business journey? Are you at a startup level trying to get traction and grow business? Or have you been in business for a while, have seen success, making money, doing good things in the world, but are stuck? Or maybe you've had even more success and you have gotten to the point where maybe things are a little complacent, maybe taking some things for granted. Or maybe things aren't going so well and you've had your head in the sand and you need to get real with where you are and what serious things you need to do to turn the ship around. So the question is, where are you today in your business journey on this chart? Knowing where you are in the journey will give you clarity on how to potentially go forward and plot a course of success for you to grow and excel in the next stage of maturity for you. Know where you're at. That'll help you establish where you're going next. Another aspect of clarity, if you haven't considered an assessment of your company, I would highly, highly recommend that, because the question is, how did we do in 2021? What went well? What didn't go well? From every aspect of the company, not just profits and losses and revenue and sales. No, how's your team culture? How is your finances? How is your communications from all the way at the top, all the way at the bottom? Is the frontline employees on the same page as the CEO? Most of the time, they're not. Marketing, sales, look at all of the different aspects of your organization and ask yourself, is each and every section of our business operating in the best possible manner? Conduct an assessment, get that data, look at it objectively from the outside in. That will help give you the data you need to help you prioritize your next moves. That'll give you clarity so you can plan going forward in a lot better manner. Okay, step 2. Now that you have clarity, you need a plan. You need a game plan that involves all of the aspects of your company, that outlines clearly your goals and your objectives and your roadmap and the things that need to happen. That could mean updating your org chart. That could mean letting some people go that you've outgrown. That could mean hiring some different people, some new people, better talent. It could be updating your products and services. It could be a lot of different things, but you need an integrated strategy that pulls all of this stuff that's going on in your company together. You need to get everybody on the same page. A lot of times I'll go into an organization and people will be in their own worlds. They have their own little empires built, and they're in their own silos and kind of marching to their own beat. And then when we kind of look at that, well, they're not all on the same page. Mike, well, show me your plan for the broader company. They don't have one, or it's outdated. In order for your organization to optimally operate to the best of your ability and take advantage of all your opportunities to go arm in arm and lockstep together as an army of one in your company to defend off the disruption and the things that can cause problems in the company, you've got to close ranks and get everybody on the same page and keep them there. You got to keep them there. So step 3 of the 4-step process is communication. This is normally where things will break down. People sometimes have clarity, sometimes have a plan, and can sometimes to some degree get everybody on the same page. But over the course of weeks or months, the communication breaks down. The organizations will rise and fall around communication. And so as we go forward, one of the biggest aspects of communicating isn't just when the next staff meeting is, or when the next reports due for end of quarter reports. The biggest challenge that most people have is ushering people through change and communicating and influencing. Okay, we're talking about leadership here. Leadership's about influencing people through change. And as we've learned earlier in this presentation, there's going to be a lot of change. We're gonna see a lot of change. So how do you usher them through it easier and faster? Well, it's easy. There's a formula, Gleischer's formula. And so to overcome everybody's resistance to change in where the red is on the far right of the screen, all the things to the left have to happen. You need to know that what you're doing may not be the best way. You need to have a vision of a better way, an easier way, a cheaper way, a way that brings everybody together. And then you got to actually take action and start doing those things, or you will never overcome the resistance to change. People will not change. They will go back to their old ways if they don't see the action and the results of the new thing you change actually working. And so when you can combine all the three, the D, the V, and the F on the left-hand side of the equation together and achieve those results, then you will actually start moving the needle. But that's tough and that's hard. The next thing that people normally neglect to think about, which is the most important thing to truly be thinking about, especially as a leader, is people. Leaders lead people, not manage things. People lead people. Leaders lead people. And as things evolve in your business, people come and go, customers come and go, disruption happens, whatever. Your team, the people you lead, go through this process. Whether you like it or not, whether you can't control it, you can't stop it. It's just a normal form of being a human. And anytime you can be in the norming stage where things are going well, or even in the high performing stage where everybody's maximizing their potential, in anything can happen in the organization. A new leader, new customers, a new direction, a merger and an acquisition, anything can happen. And it'll take you back, and you'll have to go through these phases again. Again, as a leader, your job is to know where the company is so you can make good decisions about how to take it forward. As a leader, you should also know where your people are at all times and what stage of development they are in, working together as a team. If you're not getting the productivity you want, if you're not seeing the engagement you want, something's breaking down in this process. Knowing where they are will help you help them work through whatever stage they're at. But you being familiar with this and this tool will significantly help you as a leader navigate your company through the ups and the downs and the challenges of doing things that you know you are fully capable of doing. I would also encourage you to enable people to solve their own problems. I go into organizations all over the place, everywhere. And there's a lot of top-down direction, a lot of top-down telling people what to do. And that's good. Sometimes you need to do that. But as you grow, as you scale, that will not work. You cannot scale and be downward directed. You can't just tell people what to do and they're waiting on you to tell them what to do. That's not productive. Enable problem solving at the lowest possible level. There are tools and processes for that, in which, when I coach people, I have an 8-step problem solving. Every problem in the world, I don't care what it is, can be boiled down into one of 8 categories. And knowing what the root of that problem is, and then your folks being able to look at the options and go through the process of figuring out which is the best option to solve the problem is powerful. You're enabling people, you're empowering people. They're figuring out how to do things on their own Because if you really think about it, folks, is the true sign of a leader where the leader has to be there every day? Or is a true sign of a leader where the leader isn't there one day and the organization runs just fine without them? I would argue the latter. I've seen the most success with having the latter. Well, if you're always in the middle of it, or your other leaders or managers are always in the middle of it, then are you really empowering your people? Are you really building that resiliency you need to deal with all the challenges of the world? Probably not. All right. And follow up. I have seen so many times where there'll be a plan, there'll be goals, there'll be action steps and tasks and projects, and the leaders, communicate stuff to people, and this week's priorities come and go, and the next week there's new priorities, and the next week there's more priorities, and the first round of priorities may not have gotten done. If you don't follow up as a leader on the things you are asking your people to do, your people are going to think one thing. One, everything's a priority, which means nothing is. And two, you don't care. If you don't follow through and close the loop on the things going on, they're going to think you don't care. When they think you don't care, they won't be there very long. Today, people need engagement from leaders differently than ever before. We've got a whole different crop of people in the workforce with different thinking, different minds, and different needs. The way we led 5 years ago or 10 years ago is significantly different than what needs to be there today. People, complain to me all the time about, I can't find good people. Nobody wants to work. There's plenty of good people. There's plenty of people who want to work. The question is, do they want to work for you? Are you the kind of leader they're excited to come to work for? Is your company and the culture and everything about it what they need and a good fit for them? And if not, some things to be thinking about. Okay. I can't emphasize this enough. Everybody's busy. Everybody's running around, working hard. Leaders, make time. Put it on your calendar, at least quarterly, if not more often, to celebrate success. I guarantee you, in a couple of months of time, there's a lot of people in your organization working their tails off, working late hours, going the extra mile. Whether you see it or not, whether you know about it or not, it's happening. Celebrate that success. Create the things you need to be able to root out those things that are going on so that it can become visible to everybody, and especially you as the ultimate CEO or leader in the organization, and celebrate that success in public with everybody. Very, very important. All right, so step 4, serve your people. Leaders, people aren't there to serve you. Leadership is about leaders serving others, because leaders don't work. Leaders lead people that work. The question is, what do all of my super talented people that decided to work for me, what do they need in order to be successful? And how can I, as the leader, do everything in my power to make sure they are successful as possible? Because when they are, everybody's going to be successful. So one job as a leader is to remove the constraints. What's getting in people's ways? What are their challenges? What are their frustrations? And I invite you, perfect time of year to do this. Get out from behind the desk, out from behind Zoom, and somehow, some way, get in front of your people. Walk around, talk to them, ask them about their wife and their kids and their dogs, and talk to them face to face and ask them this question. How are things going? What are your two top frustrations that you have in our company today? That if we were able to resolve them, we were able to remove those frustrations from you, that you could do your best work, you can make the most impact for yourself and this organization. I guarantee you, everybody in your organization has at least two frustrations they would really, really appreciate somebody helping them get rid of. Think about that. The next thing I would encourage you to do is provide the resources. People today in the market, especially the millennials and the Gen Zs, they need a lot of feedback. They need a lot of communication. They need a plan. They want to see a development plan of how they're going to grow and evolve. They're impatient people. And they like to see things and interact on those things on a regular basis. They want to know how they're tracking and what they're doing and a dashboard and what that looks like. And so make sure everybody is resources they need to be successful. You've done your best to be able to provide those things to them. And leverage experts. Nobody in any business knows everything about everything. Don't try things. Don't struggle with things. Find the right people that have the answers and usher them in however manner you can, and keep the energy and momentum going. Leverage people outside as much as you do inside to maximize your momentum and potential. And continuously improve, continuously challenge. That'll allow you to break free, allow you to kind of cut the chains of constraints. And you can go from this, the mad, upset, work to death business leader that's putting out fires every day and trying to keep up with things, keep everybody happy, to something like this, where you got everybody working together, everybody rowing the boat in the same direction, the same time, and the same pace. And those things, if you do these things that I mentioned, I guarantee you, you will be successful. You will be able to take your game to the next level. And so, as a gift, in addition to a copy of these slides that you can reference, we've got two other things for you. One is a free online business assessment. Okay? So if you go to my website at soarhighercoaching.com, you can click over here where it says Start Assessment. It's free, no obligation, online business assessment that you can take in about 10 minutes or less, and it will print out a PDF document with a dashboard, scorecard, and give you some really powerful knowledge and insight about where you're at and where you need to focus. And I'm also offering 30-minute consultations to folks in the program today, where you can ask me any kind of questions you want, talk to me about anything you want to talk about, and I'll give you the best advice I possibly can, just for being a part of this, just as a way to give back. No sales, no obligation whatsoever. And I will leave you with my contact information. David and his team also have it. They'll be sending some stuff out to you. And so I think this is a great time to hear from you, get your thoughts, get your questions, and continue our conversation.
Thanks, Jason. That was awesome. A lot of the stuff that you have just kind of gone through, I think, from my experience in working with different companies just like you do, a lot of this would be great for, employee retention. I mean, the retention is number one in everybody's mind right now, I think, because it's so hard to recruit. So it's doubly important to keep the employees and the team that you have. And this idea of good communication is kind of, I think, feeds into that. I was wondering if maybe you could kind of talk a little bit more about some communication best practices. I do know a lot of CEOs that, yeah, they're a CEO, but sometimes they struggle with communicating, with their team and pushing out that vision. And I like this formula that you kind of put the glaciers formula, but just kind of give us some more, just expound on that a little bit. I'm really interested in this.
You bet. Well, I think communication as a leader always starts, it's kind of like a funnel. It needs to start off in a broader sense. So people need to understand the vision and the purpose and what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's not just about money and all that kind of stuff. And I think communication also involves a plan. You've got to get everybody on the same sheet of music. There's a reason when you go to church, back in the old days, they'd say, all right, everybody rise, turn to page 232 in the hymnal, and we're going to sing the first and third verse. And so everybody, there's hundreds, thousands of people in the church singing the same song and the same, hopefully the same tune. My mom never did. and you get everybody on the same page. That's hard to do. But it's critical. In most companies I go into, they're not completely on the same page. And you got to create that page to put them on. And then you've got to create what I call a business cadence. You've got to set up a cadence for which the leadership team communicates at the level they need to on the important things they need to. The management teams in the front lines has a cadence of communicating from week to week, day to day. And then on a periodic, monthly, quarterly basis, you set up some other types of communications where everybody comes together, celebrates success, sees the impact they're making. When you're talking about retention and recruitment, it goes back to one simple principle, and that is people aren't feeling connected. They're not feeling like they're making an impact. They don't feel like they're adding value. The workforce of today wants and needs to feel a greater connection to the world we live in, and that they're making a difference in the world more so than people 10 years ago. That's critical. And if you're in an organization where you feel like you're coming to work every day and just doing the same old thing and going home, they're not going to stay. And so that's a real leadership challenge for people to set those things up and get everybody in a rhythm, in a cadence of executing that in a very cyclical manner.
Got it. And, how does this affect, I know culture is important, so how does this affect company culture?
Well, in my opinion, from what my experience of leading organizations and being in other organizations, coaching them, leadership is the culture. Leadership sets the tone. Leadership helps define that culture. And so the question really is, when you look in the mirror as a leader, is, what kind of vibe am I putting out there? How am I showing up? Am I positive? Am I negative? Am I a dictator? Am I too easygoing? Who are you as a leader when you show up? What kind of a culture do you want to have? Most people aren't even clear on what a clear culture really is. Mm-hmm. And when you walk them through that process, like, well, I want everybody to feel like family and everybody comes together, but yet they don't take the actions to do that in a manner in which I just previously described, right? And so, not that you need to be super structured about it, but leadership sets the tone. Leadership is when I teach a leadership training, leadership is like being a goldfish in a fishbowl. You're swimming around, doing your thing, and everybody sees every single thing you do. Mm-hmm. They hear everything you say. They watch your body language, your tone, just every single thing that you probably never even thought about. They're watching, they're observing, they're taking note, and they're modeling you. Well, if the boss cusses at the office, I guess it's okay for us to. I guess if the boss yells at a customer, I guess it's okay for us to, right? So they model that behavior. And so I would say, if there are some issues in a company with culture, I always, get to know the leadership really, really well and see what those dynamics may be. And there's usually some things going on there that we can turn around and improve, and that'll kind of proliferate out to the others and go from there.
Okay, thank you. So we have a lot of people online with us today, so just don't hesitate to jump in the chat. And if you have any questions for Jason, just put them in there and we'll ask them. Jason, a smaller business, leadership is important too, especially with a smaller team. But the leaders are always super busy because they have so many hands and so many things. What would you tell somebody in a smaller company? Where would they start? What would be step one? With what you've outlined, there's a lot of things to do. So where would you have them start?
Yeah. In my opinion, everything starts and actually stops with clarity. Are you, the business owner or the business leader, clear on your expectations? Are you clear on your goals? Have you clearly defined what success looks like? And so when you reach it, you're there.
That is awesome. I hadn't really thought about that. And
I would follow that up with this, David. Even in the small businesses, they're so busy. There's even more lack of clarity in the small businesses than I see in the larger ones. So, does everybody have a particular job description in writing that's updated and accurate, that captures their expectations, their roles and responsibilities? Does the leadership team have mechanisms in which they give feedback to each employee on exactly how they're performing throughout the year? So many times there are disconnects there. There's a lack of communication there. They get too busy, they forget. And then people get surprised when a supervisor says, yeah, I think you're doing good here, but bad in these 3 areas. These are things you need to work on. We'll come back and talk about it, and maybe next year. And then the person gets surprised and like, oh, well, I thought I was doing good. Mm-hmm. You need to have things written down, and the things that are written down and given to the employee have to be the true measures of success, in which everybody's on the same page, measuring everybody's success by, and continuously doing, especially in this new world of more millennials and Gen Zers in the workforce than the baby boomers and et cetera. Those generations, they just need more engagement from the leadership team. If they don't give it to them, they'll go find somebody that will. That's a differentiator. People that are struggling with people right now, I don't think it's a lack of people in out there in the world. There's plenty of people, but they need things that you're probably not giving them. And the question is, how do you need to adapt to the new norm?
Yeah. That reminds me of something else I just read recently about if you're not clear on what the employees are supposed to do, their job description, they'll create their own job, and it may not be the job that you actually want.
Yeah. And then when you go evaluate them, you're evaluating them on different things, and you talk past each other, and it blows up and it gets ugly, and they go complain in the break room, and you got the whole group in an uproar, and it like I said, the victim and the victor, you get a couple of victims in the group that aren't on the same page, and they will poison the well for everybody to drink out of, for sure. That's a big leadership challenge.
Yeah. So you also mentioned about the cadence, the rhythm of the communication. Give me an example of that. What would somebody do?
Yeah. So if you have a strategic plan, you should have goals, you should have objectives, and you should have timelines and milestones associated with that, right? And so what I would recommend is chart out the entire 12 months of 2022 of what actions need to happen and when, where the dependencies are, or dependencies may not be in completing things in a certain order or some things in parallel, and actually mapping that out. And then putting in, monthly or the latest quarterly performance check-ins, where you can go back and look at your 10 goals, 10 objectives, whatever that may be for you, and say, okay, how are we doing with the 5 goals in marketing? How are we doing with the 5 goals in sales? How are we doing with the 5 goals of HR? And our top priorities associated around how are we doing? Are we on track to complete these things at the milestone marker that we have marked on the calendar for this year? And if we're not, either it's red, yellow, or green. And I always like simplicity and color coding it. And if you're not, then great, you're catching it before it's too late. You give yourself and your team the chance to maneuver, make kind of audibles on the playing field, and change the course to make sure everybody is marching to the same beat. And it brings all of the people in the company together looking at everything, and that kind of goes back to the follow-up and the accountability that needs to happen for everybody to be accountable for their particular task and project that's contributing to these broader goals, where everybody's got skin in the game, everybody's reporting out, and everybody's a part of success. I've seen that work the best.
Nice. Looks like we're coming up on the top of the hour, and I don't see any other questions in the chat, but Jason, this has been really enlightening for me, and I'm pretty sure everybody else has enjoyed it as well. I really want to thank you for joining us today and sharing all this. This has been spectacular.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope everybody got some value. Feel free to take advantage of the things we're going to send out to you. And God bless you all, and hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season.
Yep. And just a reminder, we'll get later on today, you'll get a replay so you can watch this over and over again. And Jason's contact information is there, and you'll get that later on today as well. So, and then if you just look in the chat, there's a survey link, if you wouldn't mind taking a couple seconds and giving us some feedback on everything. We like to hear from you guys. Oh, one more question here. Alex just popped in. What do you do when you operate your business unorthodoxly and it needs to expand because there is so much business, but you can't get the financial help to expand? That's a pretty complex question there.
Yeah, I would want to understand the definition of unorthodox. That would be helpful. And I think there was a kind of a question there about funding. I'm assuming that's some kind of seed funding to invest and buy, invest in materials or something to grow. Let me address the first one first. As a leader, as a business owner, decision maker, you have to be organized. You have to be clear about who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and making sure everybody that's working with you is on that same page. And, again, the same things we talked about here apply to that situation, whether you're an early adopter, startup or not. Clarity is everything. And you will not, and I'm going to underscore the word will not, get any money from anybody out there unless you have clarity and you can stand in front of them and articulate who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, why you're better, different, faster, cheaper, and you have a plan. Nobody will give you money without a plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so true. If you don't have clarity and you can't stand in front of, somebody like me or David or an investment group and just get up there and naturally just talk through it and close the deal confidently and covering all the angles and answering all the questions, then you don't have enough clarity and your plan is not fleshed out enough. And I'd encourage you to work with David's group or some other folks out there that may have business experience that can help kind of guide you and direct you and prepare you for the things you may or may not be aware of in that journey of accomplishing your funding goals or your growth goals.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Feel free to reach out to us there, Alex. Yeah. So Alex is asking about inventory. Yeah, there's ways to finance inventory. So just go ahead and reach out to us. We're happy to chat with you about that, Alex. So
yeah. David's got all the money. He'll hand you some.
Right. Okay. All right, everybody. It was great to see everybody. And Jason, thanks so much for sharing. This has been very, very great. So
you bet.
We'll see
Happy
you.
holidays to everybody.
Same to you. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining today's webinar. At the Kentucky SBDC, we know small businesses are the heart of our economy. That's why our goal is to help business owners start, grow, and succeed in Kentucky. Find out more about how our no-cost business coaching, training, and resources can help your business. Visit us at KentuckySBDC.com.